Why did they change the original story of our childhood cartoon? And what was the original story? Fairy tales are stories we grew up with, often teaching us a lesson at the end. However, the original versions of these tales were much darker and scarier than the versions we know today. In the story of Hansel and Gretel, by the brothers Grimm, a poor woodcutter lives with his wife and two children, Hansel and Gretel, on the edge of a large forest. During a time of great hardship and hunger, the woodcutter's wife persuades him to abandon their children in the forest to alleviate their own suffering. Initially reluctant, the woodcutter eventually gives in to his wife's demands. Hansel, overhearing the plan, gathers white pebbles and pockets them during the night. The next morning, as the parents lead the children into the forest, Hansel drops the pebbles along the path to mark their way back. When the parents leave the children behind and depart, Hansel and Gretel follow the pebbles back home. A few days later, the stepmother insists that the children be taken into the forest again. This time, Hansel cannot gather pebbles and instead drops pieces of bread along the way. However, birds eat the breadcrumbs, and Hansel and Gretel become lost. They wander through the forest until they come upon a house made of candy and sweets, which belongs to a witch. The witch invites them inside, offers them food, and provides a place to sleep. She plans to eat Hansel and locks him in a cage, forcing Gretel to prepare food for him to fatten him up. The witch checks Hansel's progress by feeling his hand, but Hansel cleverly offers a bone instead, misleading her. After several weeks, the witch decides it's time to eat Hansel. She instructs Gretel to light the oven and prepare it. Gretel pretends not to understand and asks the witch to demonstrate how to enter the oven. When the witch shows her, Gretel pushes her into the oven and locks the door. Gretel frees Hansel from the cage, and they search the witch's house, finding a treasure of gold and jewels. With these riches, they find their way back home, where their father is overjoyed to see them. Their stepmother is dead, and the family lives happily ever after without poverty. In the original story of Pocahontas, Pocahontas was a Native American woman of the Powhatan Confederacy who lived in the early 17th century. Her real name was Amanute, but she was also known as Pocahontas, which means playful one, or mischievous. The story begins with the arrival of English settlers in Virginia in 1607. The colonists, led by Captain John Smith, established the Jamestown colony. The relationship between the settlers and the Powhatan people was tense and often hostile. According to historical accounts, Pocahontas, the daughter of the Powhatan chief, played a crucial role in mediating between her people and the settlers. One of the most famous legends, although debated by historians, is that she saved John Smith from execution by her father. Pocahontas was later captured by the English and held for ransom. During her captivity, she converted to Christianity and adopted the name Rebecca. Pocahontas eventually married John Rolfe, an English tobacco planter, and traveled to England with him. She was presented to English society as an example of the civilizing influence of English culture. She died in 1617 at the age of approximately 21 while in England. The animated film Pocahontas fictionalizes and romanticizes these events, portraying a more dramatic and idealized version of her interactions with John Smith and the English settlers, with a focus on themes of cultural understanding and romance. The story of Anastasia is inspired by the real-life figure Anastasia Romanov, the youngest daughter of Tsar Nicholas II of Russia. During the Russian Revolution of 1917, the Romanov family was overthrown and executed by Bolsheviks. Anastasia, along with her family, was believed to have been killed, but rumors persisted that she might have survived. The animated film Anastasia fictionalizes this tale, depicting Anastasia as having survived the assassination attempt and losing her memory. The story follows her journey as an amnesiac young woman who discovers her royal identity and tries to reunite with her surviving family members. She is pursued by those who wish to exploit her identity for their own gain. The film's narrative combines historical elements with fictional adventure and romance, leading to a dramatic and emotional reunion with her family. While the film incorporates elements of the real Anastasia Romanov's life, it is largely a fictionalized account with a focus on personal discovery and a happy ending. In the true story of Balto, the tale is based on real events from 1925 in Nome, Alaska. A severe diphtheria outbreak threatened the lives of many residents in Nome, and the only way to get the necessary antitoxin to the town was through a dangerous and long-distance sled dog relay race. Balto, a Siberian husky, was part of a sled dog team led by musher Gunnar Kaysen. The relay race, known as the Serum Run, involved several teams of sled dogs that traversed harsh Arctic conditions over 674 miles to deliver the antitoxin from Anchorage to Nome. Balto's team faced extreme weather, blizzards, and treacherous terrain. Despite these challenges, Balto led his team with determination and endurance. They reached Nome on February 2, 1925, delivering the life-saving serum and saving the town from the outbreak. Balto was celebrated as a hero for his role in this critical mission. He was later brought to the United States, where he was exhibited at the Bronx Zoo in New York City. The story of Balto remains a testament to the bravery and resilience of the sled dog teams and their handlers during one of the most challenging rescue missions in history. In the original story of Moana, the narrative is inspired by Polynesian myths and legends. Moana, a young girl from the Polynesian islands, is chosen by the ocean to restore the heart of Te Fiti, a goddess who created all life in the Pacific Islands. The heart, a magical gem, was stolen by the demigod Maui, causing environmental decay and darkness to spread across the islands. Moana, driven by her love for her people and her innate connection to the ocean, sets out on a daring voyage across the ocean to find Maui and persuade him to return the heart of Te Fiti. Throughout her journey, Moana faces various challenges, including encounters with monsters and treacherous seas. Despite these obstacles, she learns about her own destiny and the importance of embracing her heritage. In the end, Moana successfully restores the heart of Te Fiti, bringing life and prosperity back to the islands. Her journey symbolizes the themes of self-discovery, bravery, and the deep connection between the people and their environment. The story combines traditional Polynesian elements with a narrative of adventure and personal growth. In the original story of Brave, the narrative is inspired by Scottish folklore and the life of a young princess named Merida. Merida, the daughter of King Fergus and Queen Eleanor, is a skilled archer and a strong-willed young woman who prefers adventure and freedom over the traditional roles expected of her. The story begins with Merida's desire to avoid an arranged marriage that her parents have planned for her. In an attempt to change her fate, she seeks out a witch to grant her wish for a spell to alter her mother's mind. The witch's spell causes Queen Eleanor to transform into a bear, which creates a series of dangerous and challenging situations. Merida must now embark on a quest to reverse the spell and restore her mother to her human form. Along the way, she learns valuable lessons about bravery, family, and understanding. The journey tests Merida's courage and strengthens her bond with her mother as they work together to overcome various obstacles and break the spell. The story combines themes of personal growth, family dynamics, and Scottish mythology, presenting a tale of bravery and self-discovery. In the story of the Prince of Egypt, which is based on the biblical account of Moses, the tale begins with the Pharaoh of Egypt ordering the death of all Hebrew male infants to control the growing population of Hebrew slaves. To save her son, a Hebrew woman places her baby, Moses, in a basket and sets it adrift on the Nile River. The basket is discovered by the Pharaoh's daughter, who adopts the child and names him Moses. Moses grows up as an Egyptian prince, but is aware of his Hebrew heritage. After witnessing the harsh treatment of his people, he kills an Egyptian taskmaster who was beating a Hebrew slave. Fearing for his life, Moses flees to the desert, where he becomes a shepherd and marries Zipporah, the daughter of a Midianite priest. While tending his flock, Moses encounters a burning bush that is not consumed by the flames. From the bush, God speaks to Moses, instructing him to return to Egypt and lead the Hebrews to freedom. Despite his initial reluctance, Moses accepts the mission. Moses returns to Egypt and confronts the Pharaoh, demanding the release of the Hebrew slaves. The Pharaoh refuses, and Egypt is struck by a series of plagues. After the final plague, the death of the firstborn, the Pharaoh finally relents and allows the Hebrews to leave. Moses leads them out of Egypt and across the Red Sea, which parts to allow their escape, and then drowns the pursuing Egyptian army. The Hebrews wander in the desert for 40 years before reaching the Promised Land. During this journey, Moses receives the 10 Commandments from God on Mount Sinai, which serve as a moral and legal code for the Hebrew people. The Prince of Egypt dramatizes these events, focusing on themes of freedom, faith, and leadership, and incorporates both the historical and religious significance of the story.
In our world, many fascinating events occur that you might be unaware of. Join us as we debate stories and adventures.